All right, family. And we are now live. Oh, man, I know y'all excited about tonight's show. All y'all talking about in the chat is Trump, 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 Trump. We talking about Rome, y'all. What the hell, y'all? Y'all in the wrong live stream, man. We talking about ancient
It's still
Rome.
related.
Oh, yeah. Listen, let's get comfortable. It's Saturday night. We're gonna have a good time tonight. Hit that like button. Let's get to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. We're gonna get this thing started. We're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. A lot of good times. A lot of teaching. A lot of wisdom is gonna be spread tonight. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's get to this commercial real quick, and I'm gonna bring on my guest family. All right, be right back in 1 minute.
Yo. I fought plenty battles, caught many arrows, flossed plenty apparel, resembling the pharaohs, cemented in the gravel, extensive in my travels. Not to mention, ascension is my cattle. Cash cow, we milking it. Laugh now, we killing it. Last round, we still in it. Axe round, we healing shit. Hands down, we killing it. No pass down, it's silk in this. Pack your bags, take this pilgrimage. Guaranteed to be epic like Gilgamesh. Gilded flesh and shields with crests. I'ma have to kill you if I reveal the rest. All I know is when life try you, you better kill that test. That's the only real that the real respect. Niggas went from dealing death to flipping moss to heal the flesh. That's the real adept. That's the illest flex. That reveals what's next. My investors don't need to be angels. They could be the archetypes of the darkest type. Archangels who are dark and mango, like Tony Starks, and monsters like Thanos. Bangles need to be strangled and quantum entangled. And them carrots that sponsors are dangled. Only built for these bust down Cuban links. Only fans.
All right, family. Once again, family, make sure y'all get your pay-per-view tickets to the Gathering of the Masses going down August 10th and 11th. You can watch it from the comfort of your own home. The link to the live stream is pinned at the top of the chat. Guaranteed to be the biggest event ever in the spiritual community. Speakers such as Dr. Jewel Pookrum, Sister Myra, Queen Afua, Dr. Yaki Awaken now. What's the name? Dr. B Serious. Asia the Duke of Tears, and many others will be in the building. It's going to be an event in a day that you can never forget. So make sure you get your tickets. Once again, live stream tickets are pinned at the top of the chat. With that being said, let's get this thing going. Without further ado, I want to welcome back to the chat, back to the show, back to the platform. My brother, the one and the only, Rod Hayes, man. The one and the only.
What's going on?
Hey, man, hey, it's always good to have you on the platform. This is home for you, brother. This home, man.
This yes, home, sir. Yeah.
Look,
we be having a ball. Me and you be having. We be having too much fun to be teaching.
Man, I'm telling you. Bobby Hemming used to say that's how it's supposed to be. Bobby Hemming used to say you're supposed to be having a good time.
Yeah, that's when you're teaching for real. When you ain't trying to indoctrinate.
Yeah.
When you indoctrinating is a military formula. So we in the military occupation of a Roman government, which is the Catholic Church. The biggest deception Rome ever played was to tell you they failed. They didn't fall. They just changed their clothes. This is the continuation. We got to remember, Rome is the continuation of ancient Babylon. They told us Babylon fell, but they religious books tell you that Babylon keep changing its name.
When you say Babylon, you mean Samaria?
Babylon. Babylon is a neighboring civilization to Samaria. They related.
Let's start like this, Rod. So this gonna be a good one. This is gonna be a real good one. And I want to get this right. Matter of fact, let me pull my notebook out now because when Rod is talking, I got to be taking notes. I got my notebook notes when Rod is talking. So Rod, so check this out. So before we, we'll touch on that later. We'll wait till more people get in the room. We'll touch on Trump a little later on. Let's get to business.
It's inevitable that come back up.
Yeah. All right, so Rod, so what sparked this conversation tonight? Denzel Washington, they got a commercial with Denzel Washington, a brother, and he's in a new Gladiator movie. So people are like, "Oh shit, a brother in a Gladiator movie in ancient Rome." You don't hear a lot people talk about the black presidents, and we're going to get into these terms. Black, we're going to get into was Moor around, was black around, Etruscans, what term was around to describe melanated. We're going to get into all of that at that time period, not now, but at that time period. We're getting that, but people are very excited to see Denzel play this role in Gladiator 2. I don't know what role he's playing, but people are just happy to see a black man on film in an epic movie such as Gladiator 2. So I said, I've talked to you extensively about ancient history, ancient Kemet. You've talked to me about Alexander the Great, Rome, Greece, Sumeria. I mean, you talk to me, you go way back and you go modern. So I said, Rod to be the perfect brother to talk to about this. Let's have this conversation. In terms of ancient Rome, all right, we got Kemet. You talked about Kemet. You talked about this great war that happened. You talked about we've talked about the Moors in Europe. We're trying to get the chronology of all of this. So when does black people this Roman Empire, Kemet falls and then this Roman Empire rises? How does this happen? Let's go back. What happened for Rome to be so great?
Rome didn't conquer Egypt. Greece did.
Greece.
Right. Remember, they named Alexandria after Alexander the Fate.
Yes.
Right. And Rome conquered Greece with the same individual at the same time.
Wait, Greece conquered Kemet and then Rome conquered Greece.
With the same individual at the same time. I'm gonna let that marinate for a second.
You gotta explain.
Alexander the Great was a plant. He was a Roman plant.
Yeah.
He was an Etruscan.
Black man.
He was melanated, but when we say black, that's a more modern term.
You said black is a modern term.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't call people by skin color back then. We called them by their lineage, tribal affiliations. This is why you call to this day, you call Jews Jews. They're not called Jews because of the area they from. They called Jews because who they descend from. From Judah, who was the son of Jacob. Right? Judah is the one who receives the final inheritance because the rest of the kids didn't listen to their daddy. So the remnant, according to their text, is Dan and Judah. Dan literally means judge. Judah is the adjudicators. Takes us back to John Wick. Your court system is set up right in the book of Leviticus. This was done by the Levites. How do you know that? Because this in the book of the Levites, that's what Leviticus is. So their system is levies, which is another way of saying Levi. And leans, which is the anagram for their sky daddy, Yahweh Enlil. So when they came in, they used Alexander. Remember, Alexander is the son of Zeus. Zeus is the Roman name or the Greek name for Enlil.
Okay.
Right?
So Alexander is the son of Enlil.
I gotta go out and come back in. I can't hear you. My phone glitching.
Right.
So hold on 1 second.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let Rod do that. Go out and come back in. We're gonna thoroughly understand this with my brother. When my brother come back. All right. What's going on with y'all in the chat? What's going on with y'all in the chat? Yeah, real excited about the show tonight. Real excited. Get a thorough history lesson. Here go Rod right here. All right, Rod. Yeah.
Okay, so this is when they took the Roman Empire conquered Greece. They didn't put Rome first to trick you. It became known after Alexander infiltrated Greece on behalf of Rome as the Greco-Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We still follow what's called Hellenism, right? And Hellenism is Greek feminine culture. Roman is homosexual, false masculine culture, patriarchs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when the patriarchs took over, this is exactly how you know when they did it and what god they replaced. In Greece, Helen, whom the Hellenistic culture was named after, was a woman. In the priestesses of the oracle priests of Delphi, she would have been called Medu-Sa. 10th rank priestesses of the Sa priestesses, right? Medu is the rank number 10, which is the highest rank. They didn't go from 1 to 10. I mean, they didn't go from 10 to 1 for the best. They went from 1 to 10. We even use it today when we rate women because it's a feminine ranking system. It's not a masculine ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say, what is she? She a dime piece.
Mm-hmm.
We know then she got the mind, she got the body, and she got the face.
Mm-hmm.
And the swagger. She a perfect 10, right? So that's Medu in Kemetic.
Right.
Sa is the priest. Now, when you put them together, they told you that some guy chopped off a lady named Medusa's head. Remember that story?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the Babylonian culture, when you replace the god that was before you, you destroy their face, you destroy their head. That's called the beheading of a god.
Okay.
It's not literal. It's the replacing of the god whose reign you interrupted when you conquered. So when they get to Greece, when you look up the god Helen in Rome, Greece was feminine, Rome is masculine. Now Helen becomes a man. The god has been successfully beheaded. This is the story of the fall of Cleopatra, right? Cleopatra was the one sitting on the earth sacerdotal seat at the time of her pharaonic reign. And Rome seduced her. They didn't use military force to overthrow her because she would have been able to rally too much support. So they seduced her with Mark Antony and I forgot the other guy's name. I always get their names mixed up. But anyway, she was in this love triangle, right? Trying to fight to keep the matriarchy in power, knowing that these patriarchs was going to find a way, and they eventually said she killed herself. This is contemporary with your Jesus story, by the way. Jesus in Greek is spelled I-E-S-O-U-S, and the English rendition is I-S-I-S. But they told us it was J-E-S-U-S.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they turned the I into a J because they books say, I will make you fisher of men. It became the hook on the hook and the flail of the Pharaoh.
Mm.
And then they gave it the same phonetic sound as the G. You didn't need a J.
Mm.
The Semitic languages had the gin, but in the Egyptian is the only place where there was a sound equivalent to the J, but it can still be translated as a G, which is the snake, right? So when they get done replacing Cleopatra, remember, the Bible was not assembled to 325 AD. The Cleopatra was living in the contemporary time with the person they call Jesus. Jesus in Greek is Isis. When you go to the Strong's Concordance and you look up Jesus, it's going to spell it IESOUS. Then you use the grammar pronunciation key because vowels, it changes the pronunciation of the consonant and the vowel that either follow or precede, depending on if the vowel is following or preceding the consonant. So the I cancels out the E, but it makes the S sound go hard on the S, and the O is merged as one vowel with the U that gives us the O sound. And then it makes the S at the tail go hard. S. So the proper pronunciation of the Greek name Jesus in English would be Isis. Right? This is all part of the Roman construct. We reconstructing what they call the great Babylonian empires that started with the head of gold and the breastplate of brass and all the way down to the feet of iron and clay. You strike the foundation and you bring down all that it ever stood for. The foundation of the fraud is the usurpation of the feminine with the feminine masculine, which is homosexual, which is romance, which is Roman customs and traditions that's passed on through the Etruscans to defile the princes to make them unfit to rule. They sexually assault the males as youth. So when they begin to tap into their chakra system, the root chakra being shattered sends a mixed message to the crown chakra, which causes a condition that we call in the DMSB manual schizophrenia, paranoid delusions, multiple personality. It's a shattered oracle is what it used to be called. Right. And this is why all of the Roman emperors was hardcore homosexuals, because they was all trying to make the next male unfit to rule, as in the case of Caligula and his uncle. You with me, Rich?
Yeah, man. I'm listening, man. It's interesting. Yeah.
All this stuff is in a combination of historical texts and mythological literature. But because of the scrambled egg effect, where they took the story, which is called the Holy Drama, and they altered it so that it's just enough of your memory will make you attached to that doctrine. Because remember, we coming out of several different spells of sleep. The Sumerians put us in the spell of Kingu with somebody named Humbaba. And the priests in Egypt put us under something called the Amen spell. That's why you put Amen behind all your prayers, to keep your God self sleep so that your Lord self can wander around in darkness. And then we have what's called the George Washington Conjure, which is another blood. All these are blood ritual spells used to put us in a stupor so that they can continuously rule over us. But once we discover how it works, it no longer has effect, and it frees the mind. And to free the mind is to free the soul. There you go.
Rod, you said something earlier. Oh, well, you know what? I'm gonna go into that later. But when we look at Denzel, who does Denzel represent in antiquity? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Who does he represent in antiquity besides being a colored brother?
Okay, so I don't know which character he's playing because I haven't looked into it like that.
He owns slaves. He owns slaves, I think. I think he owns some of the
right. And he was an organizer of the Colosseum fights, the gladiator fights in the Colosseums. In modern terms, we would call him a dirty Moor. We wouldn't call him a righteous Moor. It's a difference in the two. And you can tell because the dirty Moors look at other people as an expendable product, but the righteous Moors look for the brotherhood in mankind. They a different animal altogether. They look the same, but they not the same.
Right.
Which takes us back to Kendrick Lamar and the Crip Walking and the OV song, and now it's all coming full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Once we start exposing the sorcery, because that's the only thing that was holding us back. We had to educate ourselves out of the condition in order to perceive the deception in the historical narrative given in order to tell the accurate history of our people. This is why they kept taking all of our leadership, because they don't want us to know who we is, because there's only two ways you can lose your birthright: forfeit or surrender. And normally if you get conquered, you have what's called a Jubilee redemption period. Right? And the Jubilee is when, if you remember your birthright and your tribal traditions that you can use to claim your birthright, then they supposed to voluntarily surrender it to you. You ain't supposed to have to fight them for it. And this is being enforced by spiritual forces that's stronger than any of these bombs these mortals is building. And that's how we got in this, from bombs.
So when we look at the movie Gladiator, and the people remember the first Gladiator, what percentage at that time of Rome, because we don't know how much we've been lied to about history, what percentage of Rome at that time, we think we had nothing to do with Rome? And I remember Bobby Hemmett was one of the first people who taught about the Etruscans. So I want to ask you two things. Who were the Etruscans, and what percentage of Rome at that time were melanated people?
So the Etruscans was, they were from, they originate on Mount Hermon.
Okay.
And when they came down off of Mount Hermon, they wasn't calling themselves Etruscans, but they got kicked out of Africa. When they kicked them out of Africa, they went across the Pillars of Hercules, where Europe is separated from Africa by the Mediterranean outlet to the ocean. And when they got kicked out of Africa, they went into Europe and set up the Etruscan or Tuscany, right? But they went a different way as well. In Turkey, they set up what's called the Ottoman Empire. So now you're talking Byzantine kings.
Who kicked them out of Africa, Rod?
Africans.
Okay.
The reason they got kicked out of Africa was for using people for human capital and starting strife between tribes that was formerly peaceful. In the Nation of Islam, Elijah said everywhere they go, they cause mischief and bloodshed. They get between two peaceful people and turn them against each other, and then they offer them a solution.
So the Etruscans were some foul niggas.
They've been foul since they landed on Mount Hermon.
Okay. Wow.
Now, when you talking about Mount Hermon, now you talking about the ones they call the fallen ones, right? But they don't tell you that each one of the 200 was in charge of several hundred soldiers.
Right.
That's what they don't tell you. And this is why they tell you that verse in the Bible that say we are legion, for we are many.
Yeah.
But it's still not more of them than it is us. We the majority, they the minority. And when I say we, I'm talking about the earthborn tribes, different skin colors, different hair textures, dating back to Atlantis. Right? We didn't have skin-based discriminatory practices. We called people by their family lineage or their geographical point of origin. They started changing names to confuse us, and then they created something called nationalities that fall under the jurisdiction of a common agenda. We call it today the Uniform Commercial Code, but in the ancient times, it was called the Code of Thieves.
Right. Okay.
The Code of Thieves was originally written to exploit people. It was the code that all thieves supposed to follow.
Wow.
And that's why when you're reading in the Uniform Commercial Code, it tell you that when the rightful owner asserts his jurisdiction over his rightful inheritance, then the holder is obligated to surrender it without resistance. It's in the Uniform Commercial Code. That's an extraction directly from the ancient Code of Thieves. Right? The group in India that was assembled to fight against these people that followed the Code of Thieves were called the Thuggee. And they were sacred to, the deity they held sacred was Kali Ma, the Dark Mother, the Timekeeper. Right? Because every 26,000 years, she gonna show up and show out. And this is where we at now. The thugs came to overthrow the fraudulent kings in order to put the Nagas back in power. They look like us, but they not us. And this is the greatest confusion on the historical record that keeps them in power. And the last drop to break is the mental poison they call racism. Right? The superiority complex is being used because of the natural nature of extremism of the earthborn. Right? If you kill one of ours, we killing 10 of yours, and no question about it, unless we was held back by a outside spiritual agency, as in sorcery. Right? So when the elders made the agreement, they knew that we was going to fight back. But all of the ones that wanted to fight back, they knew, well, we can't leave this one in the community. All you got to do is create a condition and he'll react to it. This sociology and social engineering using the science of sociology. All of this dates back to the Talmud and the Mishnah before they had a Bible. Right? The Talmud and the Mishnah is the writing of the priests who was held in the so-called Babylonian captivity, where they picked up the money rights, Babylonian money magic. They picked up the blood rights, Babylonian blood magic. And they picked up the sex right, which was the Babylonian sex magic. How do I use these three? These are the most powerful forms of magic in conjunction to subjugate the most amount of people. This is what was going on. So when you see Denzel in there, you listen to his dialogue and how he referred to other people would tell you if he was a dirty Moor or if he was a righteous Moor disguised as a dirty Moor to survive. Because sometimes the good people have to play the role of the bad guy just to make it through the system because it's so corrupt. Right. So if I know how to control the antagonist and the protagonist by putting obstacles in their life path, then I can control all of the people that he was supposed to be educating out of the condition. This is what gave rise to COINTELPRO in the modern time. But in the ancient times, it wasn't called that. It was called espionage. Right? As we go back further, the name changes again to Temple Wars. Right? Sun Tzu wrote in the early 1000s in the Art of War that all war is predicated upon deception. But what we don't know is all sorcery is also predicated upon deception. War and sorcery become synonymous when we fighting a spiritual battle and a physical battle simultaneously. So you can go to the AI and just ask them, was voodoo being used in the Civil War? And it's going to tell you that both sides was trying to use the conjure in order to get the upper hand on the other side. What do that mean? That means we was fighting a physical war and we was fighting a conjure war at the same time. The physical war we fought to a treaty agreement to now just rely on the conjure war. That's the George Washington challenge. In 200 years, you ain't gonna know what side of the ocean your ancestors originate from because y'all the same people. No, in the F we ain't. We ain't the same people. Just because we got nappy hair and brown skin do not make us the same. You have nappy hair, brown skin people in India that's been there the whole time. They call them Dravidians, and they call them the untouchables, the bottom of the caste system. Remember, everything that was made first got to be put last, and everything that was made last got to be put back to the beginning. That's a reset, right? So those coliseums, they used to fight people like they fight dogs.
Yeah.
We get more offended now in a dog fight than we do at a boxing match. And it used to be the other way around.
Right.
Go ahead.
Who do all right? You established that the Etruscans, these were some foul individuals who got kicked out of Africa. Who do they become later on down the line?
Later on down the line, they become the royal families of Europe in all of the countries of Europe. They established the Prussian Empire for Khazarians.
What, the 13 Illuminati families? That's what you're trying to tell me?
The Illuminati families is what you call Rothschilds, blood shields. They the cover story. It's really one royal family that's in the background, known to the Egyptians as the Amun priesthood. Right?
That's not the Etruscans.
They the same people.
Okay.
Remember, the war was fought it started in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Babylon, Sumer, Acadia, today, modern day Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon. Mm-hmm. When that war kicked off, then the lands become spoiled from the warfare. So the people migrate to get away from the war. The average human on earth don't want to be involved in bloody warfare. Mm-hmm. So you need somebody with a spiritual hierarchy that could pull rank that would make you fight for them. They had to use conjure to do that. That's why if you look at, let's take the story of Joshua. How did Joshua know how to pick his soldiers? Because he was told by an elder to watch how they drink. Mm-hmm. And those who drink this certain way is the ones you take in the battle. And the ones who don't drink like that, you can send their ass home. They ain't no earthly good.
What about the drink? What was it about the way they drink?
It was just the point about how the sorcery is being used to separate who's going to be a thinking fighter on his feet versus who's going to be a lump of clay on the battlefield.
Gotcha.
Right. It's your intuitive ability to adapt to a circumstance that they was looking for.
Gotcha.
Right. All of these is layers of empires built up on top of each other under the illusion that the original empires was falling. When they wasn't falling, they was extending their reach, their prominence, and their power around the world. And we wasn't paying attention because we was only concerned with our neighborhood, our block, my street, my corner, my house. And they was being how we can take it all from them. The whole planet, they wanted it all. Right? So they began to systematically extend around the world, culminating in the Pope issuing the white man's burden in the Discovery Doctrine.
That's what Blue Pill told the doctrine of the Discovery. That's what Blue Pill be talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the foundational instrument of all Western conquest into Africa, the Americas, Australia, Hawaii, Tonga, Samoa, Suriname, Philippines. They use the same discovery doctrine. When Sipico put the Pope on notice, we didn't know what that meant as a collective. Some of us chiefs know because we can read our culture the same as people read books. So when she put him on notice, she was pulling his rank. And once she put him on notice, he had, I think, 90 days or something to respond, and his response was the repealing of the discovery doctrine, which takes away everything that's built on top of the doctrine of discovery. So we systematically walking this beast back, trying to get a grasp on who the real enemy is versus who they told us the enemy was, and how to determine the difference in the two, right? And if you look, most pale faces do not benefit from white privilege, and they call them poor white trash. Now, to enforce the caste system, if you have a shining and bright, intelligent piece of poor white trash, you can sheep dip him out of there so he don't begin to wake up none of the rest of the poor white trash, and you keep them down there with the spics and the nigras, right? And them are the untouchables. Those are the lowest part of the caste system, right? So this is why you see a lot of these people, especially the hillbillies, saying, I ain't with that there. They can go fight their own war. I don't want no parts of it. They're not benefiting like we think all pale faces do. You got just as many white niggas benefiting as you do pale faces. But we don't never see that because they live in gated communities and they live with opulent wealth. They don't want to associate with us because they call us Goyim. Right? They call us chattel. We like a flock of cows or a herd of cows or a flock of sheep. We ain't no different in their eyes. They have a superiority complex to anybody, regardless of their skin color, but they will use one against the other if it'll serve their purpose.
Right. At this time, when we're talking about ancient Rome, we're talking about the Etruscans. You know, they're being influenced by Kemet or whatever. You know, things are going on. You know, we got the whole Library of Alexandria and things going on with Greece and Kemet. What's going on in the Americas at this time when they got all this popping on? When they got it popping in Kemet, they got it popping in Rome, they got it popping in Greece. What's going on in the Americas at this time?
We singing, swinging, getting married like Christmas. That stuff didn't have nothing to do with us. We over here having Mardi Gras and backyard barbecues and all that kind of stuff until Columbus came. We wasn't affected by what was going on in that part of the world directly, but we knew they was coming because it's in the ancestral record. It was prophesied before it happened. That means somebody knew it was going to happen.
Right.
Right. So when they came, they were expected, but the terror and the hell that they brought with them, that wasn't expected.
So the terror and that wasn't prophesized, what they was coming with.
Not to this level. We didn't know they had organized their blood magic, sex magic, and money magic to this level of efficiency that would keep us in this stupor for this long. We supposed to broke out of this 100 years ago. Right? But the one that was going to break us out of it, they murdered him. And the other one that came to give aid and assistance and break us out of, they deported him.
Right. Right, let me ask you this. You talked about this group. What was the name of this group? The Thuggies? What was they called? The Thug? And this was a group. And who were they again? The Thuggies?
The Thuggie was the ones fighting the tax collectors, the ones using the money magic, sex magic, blood magic, following the code of thieves. The Thuggie was robbing their ass, they was robbing from the thieves, giving it back to the people. That's where your Robin Hood story come from.
Rod, you into the whole spiritual thing, so I can ask you this question. Do you think Tupac was a reincarnation of one of the Thuggies since he represented Thug Life?
Yeah, he was a loyalist to the matriarchy. The reason why he even used Thug is because of how the war was being structured against us the same way that it was being structured against the Thuggies in India. Right? It's a tribal link there that come to bear at the Bandung conference when we had to figure out a collective earth strategy to fight the white supremacy machine of the invading forces. And so we decided to put all of the spiritual protection energies together like Autobot. That's what that whole show is about.
Right.
All of the earth clans bringing a piece to the puzzle together, and the one who can put it all together is the one that's going to break the mental stronghold on the minds of the masses. Right. So China brought Sun Wukong. Japan brought, I think his name was Sasuke. Right. India brought Hanuman. The people of Egypt brought Tahuti. Right. And when you get all down the line, they all turn out to be the same person in the end.
All right, Rod. So at this time, once again, we're talking about an ancient, and I like how you're breaking this down. At this time of the Etruscans' rule in Rome, who was ruling in Egypt at this time? So we could tie this together. Who was ruling in Egypt at this time, Rod? What dynasty were they in?
Oh man, I don't remember my dynasties like Dr. Clark or Dr. Ben, but this was in the BC period. So, you know, just look at the time Alexander was here, right? And this is the incursion of the Etruscans. But you can Google it, it'll tell you when the Etruscans migrated into Europe. When they was going into Europe at the same time, the priestesses from Egypt was setting up the first university on the island of Crete. And they penned the Greek language and they trained the Greek philosophers. The Greek philosophers don't have Greek philosophy. There's no such thing. All of the Greek philosophy is temple priest teachings from the temples in around the world. Actually, it was a global network of temple priests, and they got into a conjure war with a group that wasn't. Wherever they came from, they ain't from here because they don't have. They changed from how they first looked when they came. After we killed them here a certain amount of times, they come back melanated with nappy hair. But in the interim, they suffer from these skin disorders like ichthyosis. Right. So let's say a ship come in from outer space with one on it and it crashed and we never seen it. When he born, he gonna be born to somebody on Earth that has the closest genetic makeup that he can infiltrate to come out, but he's gonna look like a severe case of ichthyosis, the red eyes, the big scaly skin, and all of that. But when he die and he come back again, he gonna have probably eczema, psoriasis, or something like that. And then the next time he come back, he gonna have clear skin. He gonna look like a regular person, but he ain't regular.
Right.
Right. That takes us back to the building of the Great Wall of China.
Okay, I want to name you 3 names, and I want to ask you, you know, since we're talking about this BC era and we're talking about ancient Rome, and you happen to bring up Greek philosophers, let's talk about 3 names: Socrates, Aristotle, and I believe Plato was one of their students. What can you tell me about the one?
Plato was the first one to tell them about Atlantis. They say,
how did he know?
He told us how he know. He overheard a conversation in the temples in Egypt. 2 priests was talking, and the Atlantis story is what he heard, the story that he told. The Atlantis story was the story before the nuclear holocaust that put Antarctica under ice. So they telling the ancient stories, and the temple priests know all of the stories, and they're not a secret. They just don't tell it to the masses of people because they had to go through a civilization rebuild, a reboot of a whole entire civilization of the planet. It used to be one world, one people under different sectors. It was originally 13 sectors, right? The high seat or the sacerdotal seat of earth used to be in Arizona. Then it was moved to Kemet. Then it was moved to Rome.
Where it was in Arizona before Kemet and Rome?
Yeah. The oldest temple of Isis is in Arizona right now.
The oldest?
The oldest.
Come on, Rod. Damn. Where?
That's where it's at.
In Sedona?
No, it's in the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
It's in the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
This is why they keep finding all those what appear to be Egyptian artifacts. That's Atlantean. Not Egyptian.
So the shit they find in the Grand Canyon is Atlantean, not Egyptian.
Yeah, but it look this is the same because we don't know, but Tahuti left over here in the Americas to establish Egypt as the watch post for them people that came to Mount Hermon.
Right, well, where's Mount Hermon, right?
Mount Hermon is known as Mount Sinai. It's in the Middle East.
Okay.
Right. They also call it Mount Zion.
Wow.
So now you understand the Zionist Jew plot to take over the world. Holocaust might have been before that, but it's the cause of the last ice age. The last ice age is an artificial ice age. It wasn't supposed to be an ice age this close to the closing of the age and the cycles. So whatever happened right that caused that nuclear winter we call the ice age. It was a global nuclear winter is what it was. It was an artificially induced ice age. This in the Vimana Sutras in India talk about the Great War. The Bhagavad Gita is talking about he's seeing family members on both sides of the war. He ain't understanding what he's looking at. So Arjuna is asking Krishna, why do I see family members on opposing sides of the war? And he said, because different families got infiltrated by the people they fight.
Wow. This thing get deep, Rod. This thing get real deep. You tying a lot in together. So Rod, all right. So we went back to the nuclear holocaust. You talked a little bit about Atlantis. We talked about Kemet. We talked about the Etruscans getting kicked out of Africa, going into Rome. Then the Etruscans eventually becoming these families that we hear about. When did the skin-based discriminatory practices start happening that you alluded to earlier? Because you said it wasn't always like this. So
no, that came with the incursion into the Americas. When people first came over here, they didn't identify themselves as black or white. Italians identified themselves as an Italian. The French identified themselves as French. An Englishman identified himself as an Englishman. And we over here, we was the tribes. We was the clans, right? We was the ones who was already here when they came, right? But the nature of who we are, we didn't close the door and tell them you can't come in. We just didn't know they was going to raise hell and cause havoc.
When did we start identifying as Moors, Rod?
Moor is you can do the etymology on the word Moor. The word Moor is roughly 500 years old. It was
no, because they was in Europe. They wasn't
called Moors until after
Blackamoors.
Right. They started being called Blackamoors, but they wasn't called Blackamoors first. They was called Moray in Europe.
Moray.
By the French. It was the French who called them Moray. M-A-U-R-I. Right. The term M-O-O-R is a catch term. It's to group multiple people under one umbrella that come from different backgrounds. That's the purpose of a catch term. Right. Dane Calloway put up a Muhammad Ali clip the other day, and it was very interesting because Ali was explaining why he threw his Olympic medal in the river, and he was explaining that he was about to go into this restaurant that didn't serve the Negroes, and he seen two Africans, and they didn't speak no English, and he said the storekeeper said, "Oh, they not Negroes. You can let them in." And that's when he found out that it wasn't about skiing. This was a war effort. As long as we don't know this is a war effort, we lost. We at war. The war is coming to a close.
So the Africans weren't considered.
They wasn't considered Negroes.
Just Black Americans, you saying?
Right. Now you starting to see it. Right. And the reason being is the slave narrative was a POW strategy to make the people never say, "Hey, wait a minute. My bloodline always been here. Who is these people telling me what I can and cannot do at home?" Because they're not from here. Right. And if you don't know what a cat's paw is, and you don't know how Moors love chess, you won't never know what it takes to beat them. That's critical.
They invented chess?
Chess is invented as in Egypt. The Egyptian priests invented chess to train the pharaohs for war.
Okay.
Right? And the more proficient you are in the game of chess, the better you can see a battlefield.
Okay.
So when the Moors got chess, they loved the game. So now they playing chess out in the open, just like in that movie. What's the name of that movie? It's a Mel Brooks movie, History of the World. It's good to be the king.
Right.
If you watch the movie, they running from the Inquisitor. They replaced the king with the piss boy. But before they come, he's sitting on the throne and he's moving people around on a chessboard. This is where the terminologies get confused to the skin color because they chess terms. In chess, the white piece is the attacker. The black piece is the defender. In law, the free white person is the attacker. And those civilly mortis classified as black is the defendants. Right? They the ones who's defending the land. They got treaties with 5 civilized tribes. Remember that. It's over 5,000 tribes across the land, from coast to coast, north to south, going into South America. We starting to get up more and more tribes as we cross borders. But on the mainland of North America, is roughly 5,000 tribes on the land. That's 5,000 major family groups that lived separately on their own, under their own vine and fig tree, and that gave us 5,000 different cultures. The Shoshone does not have the same tribal practices and rights as the Choctaw or the Montana or the Dakota or the Apache. All of them had their own way that they lived. If they married across clans, then the marriage ceremony from each clan would be put up for negotiation to which clan the person was marrying into to determine which marital right. Right? Some clans, the girl stayed at home till she was, up in age, till she found a husband. In other clans, when she hit puberty, she got to go. Right? But all of the clans wasn't the same. Right? This is when Columbus came. When we was in Atlantis, the age of consent of the female was based on her maturity, not her years on Earth. And she was always being monitored by elder women to determine what type of individual she need to marry for her temperament and for her emotional well-being to make her the most productive counterpart. We don't look at marriage like that now. We look at it from the romantic homosexual point of view. When I say romantic, that's automatically homosexual. Romance, we think it's the man seducing the woman. That's not what it was. Go back and look at the statuary of Rome. Everywhere you see one of these pedophile priest statues, you're going to have a little naked boy with him. When you look at the pottery, you're going to see the old bearded man gazing into some boy's eyes in the pottery, because the romance is homosexual seduction. So they wanted this method to control the masculine by restricting their ability and their access to satisfy women. Right? And so they make the man become less masculine using those romantic tactics. Right? So we following the agenda that they followed back then. Right now, when we call it the LGBTQ community, and all of the time, some military generals was hired by a bunch of homosexual priests in the 60s to write a blueprint manual to make homosexuality not only accepted, but celebrated in the society. It was a war manual written by military retired generals that was paid by some homosexuals to do it. It's called the gay agenda.
So, Rob, what do you call it when a man what's the correct term when a man seduces a woman? Since you don't want to say romanticism, what is that? What's the term that we
I
use?
call it anything but that.
Okay.
True. I call it dating, flirting, anything but romance. That's because, look, they even gave you a clue because they put a B in front of it now and call it a bromance. WTF is that?
Right.
And now you got all of these pseudo masculines that's doing something called the down low.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal in our culture. It used to be so rare for us to see a person that was gay. We call them two-spirited people, and they would celebrate it. But not like this. This is extremism. You're not supposed to actively convert what would be a heterosexual male into the being attracted to the same gender. It's an abomination to nature itself.
Rod, the interesting thing is you talk about, y'all talk about the patriarchy and you talk about homosexuality and us needing to get back to the matriarchy. And you talk about Rome and the celebration of homosexuals. From my optics, just analyzing culture, women celebrate homosexuals. And I'll give you an example. Any woman that you see on television,
we call them fag.
Any woman you see on television, she has one of them with her and elevates them to a role where they become known, they become famous, and they known as, he rolled with so-and-so. So if it's a matriarchy, wouldn't they celebrate them more than ever, Rod? Because I always see them with a woman. They stay with a sister. They even in the spiritual circles, a sister stay with one of them. And I'm not trying to down them or anything like that, but the matriarchy seems to celebrate them more than anything.
That's not the matriarchy. Those are feminists.
Okay.
Feminists are the reverse side of the patriarchy coin. They got to have a way. If the matriarchy begin to recover from the slumber and rise back to prominence, the patriarchs needed a contingency plan.
Right.
They know that one of the sons gonna advocate for his mama and fight for the matriarchy. They already know this is the nature of who we are. So they created feminism, and feminism is a saturated ideology given to them by drag queens. Half of the original feminists that you see was drag queens. They wasn't women.
You hit it.
The Statue of Liberty, a drag queen. And we was told by the French when they sent it over here. That's why they sent it.
You for real, for real?
I'm
like,
dead serious.
That'd be funny. Like the Statue of Liberty is a dragon. You like?
Yeah, the Statue of Liberty is the same statue as Lucifer. That's in Europe. Right. It's just got a dress on. And the Lucifer statue in Europe is an absolute man. We got the same face.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they using the feminist agenda to undermine the matriarchy and to deceive the patriarchs of the matriarchy or the men of the matriarchal support system to be averse to matriarchy because they think in matriarchy and feminism is the same thing. Feminism is wrote by drag queens. It wasn't written by women. It was wrote by drag queens and lesbians. And that don't mean that you can't be a feminist. I don't care if you're a feminist or not. I'm just telling the people exactly what it is.
So Rod, with that being said, in with ancient Rome and their practices, the country we live in now, what role do they play right now with exactly what's going on right now? How prominent is Rome right now in America since you said they never fell?
Do you know that Washington, D.C., the name of it before they changed it to Washington, D.C. was Rome?
I did not know that, no.
Okay, go look it up.
It was called Rome?
You can't get no more accurate than that.
Shit. Shit. Hold on.
Daddy Duty call, that override all of this social media conversation. When Daddy Duty call, I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna wait for Daddy Duty to get done, and we're gonna go right back to the conversation because I got assigned to it. I know how it is.
I appreciate it, Rob. Wow, this is a very interesting conversation. I feel like we've done so much timelines. I mean, Atlantis, Kemet, Greeks, Europe, America. Shit, you told me about Arizona and the Grand Canyon. Wow. Let's get to
if you ask me anything, I'm telling you, I'll send you the receipt.
Oh yeah. Damn, I didn't know Washington D.C. was called Rome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
the only reason why they named it Washington D.C. Washington is named after George.
No. Well, what role? All right, let me ask you this, Rod. Since there's so much confusion about the dirty Moors and the Moors and people looking like us but not us, Benjamin Banneker,
Big Ben,
foul individual or somebody we could look up to. Who is Benjamin? Because he built Washington. He's the one that designed it.
I'm gonna let you judge for yourself. I'm gonna tell you what the streets. Those are sigils. Unraveling the sigil, you see the Masonic symbol for masonry. You see the owl for Bohemian Grove or Moloch. You see the dog sniffing the rabbit, which is telling you that to follow the trail, right? And I can keep going on, but all of the codes are based on the bloodletting ritual that originated with the death of Crispus Attucks and the dawn of the Civil War, or the Revolutionary War. Revolutionary War, Civil War. I get them mixed up sometimes. Y'all have to forgive me, y'all. But when Crispus Attucks got murdered, right now in the George Washington Memorial, if you look at that Constitution, it's written in his blood as a form of Babylonian blood magic to put us in a stupor. This is why we couldn't figure out how to get out of the condition. Because one, they blocked us out of every one of the institutions, right? So we couldn't get educated by their standards to know what they was doing, so that concealed it. Then they closed down all of the family banks with their outlaws. We call them today economic hitmen.
Okay.
Right? Then they took us the sharecropping agreement they stole our land from, which I'm gonna come back to the land part in 1 minute. But the sharecropping agreement was used to steal our intellectual property through arts and entertainment in the entertainment field. Right? Then they start taxing us on our labor, which is a violation of the Constitution, because the Constitution say not to tax the income at its source. Taxation is supposed to be secondary to the transfer of funds from one individual to another. We didn't need taxes before they came. Every big mama governed her area and financed whatever projects that the tribes wanted to do for their area, whether it's build a bridge, build a dam, build a railroad, whatever it was. Big Mama Bank for the area covered the bill. It wasn't no bills, you know. They gave people gratitudes for doing the work, right? So they give it to them in gold, and they gave it to them in gold. That's why Big Mama colors is black and gold. This is what she used to pay out in gold and gold. And then we always had, of every family was tied to a farm, taking us back to the land. And this is what I keep telling people, okay? They told us that we all came over on slave ships, but nobody's telling us how all of these melanated people end up with all of these thousands of acres of lands. Where we get it from? We was barred from buying land from pale faces. So who is we getting this land from if we wasn't already here? Where are we getting these now we ain't talking about no 20-acre plot. We talking thousands of acres. In one family. We had family farms and we fed the family from the family farm. That's why we never needed a grocery store. Everything that we naturally did, we need a license to do now. What is a license? A license is permission to do something that's illegal. Most people don't know that. When I found that out, I was like, that's the dumbest stuff in the world. What do you mean? That means that going fishing is illegal. Unless this government, that's not our government for real, it's a corporation that's putting up this front like it's our government. They don't want us to do none of our natural behavior so that we can't survive living off the fat of the land. So we need licenses for everything and permission slips from massa, free papers. Damn. It's the same thing. All they did was upgraded it and made it look prettier than it did when it just said free man walking on the paper. Now you got the driver's licenses embossed with the state seal and all this fanciness in order to fall under the code of the uniform. The appearance of legitimacy makes us believe that they're more legitimate than we is, and they are totally illegitimate. We the only legitimate ones, the ones that's tied from the blood to the land. Everybody else is guests in our house. Some of the tribes don't mind guests being here, and other tribes want all of them gone. Right? They want the innocent ones gone and the guilty ones gone because they don't want to go through sorting them out. They come from the kill them all, let God sort them out philosophy. But the tribes got to stop killing themselves first. It's up to us as the elders now to tell the youth exactly what these people did to turn us against each other. Right? They got the paperwork now, the FBI snitch program, the COINTELPRO papers, right? They got another group, FBI assets that was used to infiltrate our organizations. They didn't use no pale faces to infiltrate us. You couldn't get it. You couldn't pry the Nation of Islam open in 1965 and push a pale face in there, and they still got infiltrated. So who is they telling you the enemy?
Somebody that looked like us.
In the early days of the Moorish science, they was equally as militant as the Malcolm X days of the Nation of Islam. You ain't getting no pale face in there. The same with the UNIA. Because they was under the delusion that the enemy looked like the pale face. The first one to tell us that it wasn't about the skin color was J.A. Rogers. Before J.A. Rogers, the first one to tell us there was some strange stuff that was happening on the land was David Walker and David Walker's Appeal. Right? And This is what began to bring this stuff full circle and patch in the holes. When you find out that that Noble Drew Ali infiltrated the Moorish Zionist Jews, now it started to make sense why they hate Farrakhan for the secret relationship between blacks and Jews. Because when you read the first book, you realize, wait a minute, this is not making sense, because at these times, everybody here at the time that they say these Jews is here is melanated. Ain't none of them pale. Ain't no pale-faced Jews yet. That was a pilot program started under the Khazarian Empire. The Khazarians came from the Khazarian mountains in the Prussian imperial rule. Prussia fell, Russia rose, and the Tsars. And the Tsars was the antithesis to the Ashkenazi, right? They were the enemy to the ones who would later come over here as the blood shield for the black nobility to do business, because they could pass the brown paper bag test with ease, right? So this is why your JDL, a Mossad intelligence agency, is over here as a civil rights activist group, and they don't do no civil rights activity whatsoever. It's a paramilitary assault team designed that anybody that's going to tell us exactly what's going on, kill that one there. They use them in places like Hollywood where we have large platforms. This is why all of the celebrities are scared to speak up, because they being they life and their families and the people they care about life and their financial stability is all being threatened by these people. They in all of the FBI files on all of the mysterious deaths. That's not no coincidence. It's too many, right? They know they was trying to extort Tupac. He kept telling them F you every time they called him. You know how he is. Show me. I don't believe you. Bring them. How many you got? Right? The same thing with Big. He could tell you on that one of his songs when they calling him up early in the morning, and they telling him that, you dead. You soft, dude. Who you talking to? Well, bring it. Right? So now, in order to confuse the enemy, we got to confuse the clans. That's what they was doing with the East Coast, West Coast drama.
Man. Rod, let me ask you this before we get out of here. Your thoughts on what happened today with Trump? It's a movie. It's a shit show.
It's getting juicy, baby. I got my popcorn. I got me a half a gallon of soda. I'm sitting back with my feet up. Listen, it's a cold.
What's going on?
Everybody's seen the blood on his ear, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which ear was it?
I'm not sure.
It was his right ear.
Okay.
All right. The right ear mean the rightful heir. With the blood right, hears, meaning I hear the rightful heir. I'm going to tell you, out of everything that went on that everybody missed, he told the military it's go time in your face.
He said that?
He did it with sign language.
Okay.
First he did like this, right? That means hold your position. Then he did this again, hold your position. Then he did it and he started doing like this. Move. It's time to go. Whatever they got planned is about to blow. I don't know what it is, but I got my popcorn. I'm sitting back watching. Look, Donald the Duck just became Howard the Duck.
Oh, man.
What's God's name, Howard?
Oh, man. Rod said, yo, y'all see how Rod lit up when I asked, yo, Rod is having a good time enjoying this shit show. Oh, man, this is wild. Man,
look,
oh, man.
Joe Biden came out and he didn't make one verbal or mental error talking about what happened. It's James Woods all day long. They didn't want to use Jim Carrey today. Or he came out, he did not fumble one word, right?
Yeah.
The speech clear as it's been since 2017.
Wow. Wow.
The show getting good. It's getting good and juicy. It's getting good and juicy.
Let me get to a couple of questions before I get out of here. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got about 2,400 people in the chat. I'm gonna get to about 2 questions before we get out of here. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Let me see what y'all. Shout out to everybody who sent the super chat.
You gotta tell them about the Patreon.
Oh, yo, listen. Yeah, thank you, Rod. So me and Rod this Tuesday, shout out to all the Patreon members. This Tuesday is going down. Me and Rod is going to be doing some telepathy training on the Patreon. So if you're interested in tapping into these extrasensory perception abilities that we all have that are being ignored because of distractions or whatever reasons that we are ignoring them, we're going to be tapping more into them on Patreon, and it's starting this Tuesday. It'll be up. I don't know what time it'll be up, but it'll be up. Me and Rod is going to do it early in the day, but it'll be uploaded that Patreon night. So if you're not a Patreon member, make sure you join Patreon. It's going down. It's going beyond just the regular information. In the era we going in, we got to have that. You know how the animals, they know when some shit's about to go down and they move, and we need to tap into that instinct. We need that animal instinct. So in that telepathy, we need to know how to communicate with each other without calling each other and without, all the technology. So make sure if you're not a member of the Patreon, you join Patreon. It's going down this Tuesday, telepathy training featuring Rod Hayes. It's going to be an amazing show. I mean, amazing show. Very interesting. Let's get to a couple of questions. Yeah, somebody said, yeah, this is the season to enhance your spiritual gifts. You ain't exaggerating at all. This is the season of all seasons, y'all. So yeah, it's time for this telepathy training. It's time for the gathering of masses and everything else we know we got going on. Shout out to everybody who's contributing to the ascension process and to the resurrection of our consciousness, because it's a beautiful time. Like Rod said, it's getting juicy out here. It's getting real juicy.
Hey man, this is a sight to behold.
Somebody just reminded me. Let me put up Rod's Cash App. Rod A's Cash App. Sick Ape. All right. Shout out to everybody who wants to donate to my brother. You enjoyed this show tonight. Cash App $ Sick Ape. That's SIKAPE. All right. Make sure y'all show the brother love. For those who are interested, make sure you do that. Yeah, make sure you do that. Yeah, somebody said, can you do one on energy healing? Yeah, that might be the next one. But and I do the energy healing with Wayne Chandler. I got it covered on the Patreon. Wayne Chandler, he does the Qigong. So if you are really interested in that,
remind them why we use Patreon. So because some people be telling me, because they, you got to pay a fee to get on Patreon. But tell them why we use Patreon so that I don't have to hear that shit.
Well, Rod is a little unfiltered. I might have to get rid of one of the words he said tonight, because we got in some shit last year with YouTube when a video of his got taken down, channel got suspended, and then they sent me another email one time. I forgot what they told me about Rod. They didn't suspend the channel, but they said some weird shit about what Rod said. And I'm like, what the hell did he say? He barely said anything. So when me and Rod get together, weird stuff starts happening. So to be on the safe side, sometimes we just do the things on Patreon, or and that's more for the people who take this shit really, really serious. So in the Patreon, it's I think it's like $5. So the Rod's so it's not nothing that's way out there. You know what I'm saying? So if you're interested, make sure you tap into that. It is definitely, and shout out to everybody who's already a member. But let's get to a couple of questions. Okay. I don't know. Okay, Rod, they want to know the series Bridgerton on Netflix. Your grandma be fucked up, y'all. She's saying, is it telling some truth on the nobility?
I haven't seen. I don't watch much TV. Only thing I really watch on TV is wrestling. So if somebody don't tell me, hey, go check this out, because it might be some information, and I don't go looking at that stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I haven't seen that particular series, but I'll investigate a little bit. So next time we come on, if she asks, I'll be able to tell her something.
Right. Let's somebody said put his Cash App up again. Let me see. I gotta scroll up. Hold up. Oh, give me a second, y'all. Y'all really could just rewind it. Y'all be on some lazy shit, but I'm gonna do it because I'm gonna look out for Rob. But y'all really be on some lazy shit. But I'm what they do, they could just rewind it, but I'm put it back up. All right. How to get on Patreon? You just go to patreon.com/blackmagic363. It's spelled the same, and I'll put the link later in, but before we do the show, I'll put the link. Let's get to okay. Rod, they want to know, where did they get the knowledge of this Babylonian magic? Why was it so effective? Where did they get this knowledge from, Rod?
It's a guy in the Anunnaki pantheon named Ninursin. He wrote it as a military protocol of conquest. Ninursin, his father is Enlil.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he wrote it, the so-called captivity of the Jews in Babylon, they left with it in the Talmud and the Mishnah and a couple of other books, the Holy Sephra, and they used what's called the Sephra tree as a method to exercise the magic, to use the magic. So when you start learning what they're doing, you end up by default climbing the tree, right? It's also known in some schools of thought as a tree of life, but we only see it in its one-dimensional form. And to really understand it, you have to use your holographic mind and see it three-dimensional. Then it changes all of the perception that you picking up from the symbolism that they putting down.
Mm-hmm.
But Ninursin wrote it as a war protocol.
Rod, man, how many children did Enlil have? You talking about Alexander was his son?
Thousands.
Yeah. Oh, he was getting busy like that.
Yeah, him and Enki. Enki got whole tribes in Africa right now. Like, for instance, go look at the Dinka, how big they is.
Yeah.
Right. That was his family from one wife. And then you got the Zulu, that's his family from a whole different wife.
So it
right. So yeah, so they call him if you read the Secret Doctrine, the ISIS paper, ISIS Unveiled by Madame Blavatsky, Enki is referred to in there as Old Man Africa because his territory was modern day, what we call Africa today, and what we call India, right? Mm-hmm. The children he had with his wife in India, those are the Dravidians, right? Mm-hmm. Then he got other tribes that's tall and lanky, like the Watusi, that's from a whole different wife, right? And then they come down in family lines.
Hey, Rod, you know what I want to ask you too? Is there anything going on with the damn sharks in the water? There's so many shark attacks happening in Florida and in different states.
They agitated. All of the marine life is agitated because the water is heating up. The water is heating up because the planet is heating up.
Okay.
Right. So if the sharks get more aggressive, the hotter the water is. It's the same with people. In the summertime is when we do most of the dirt. We don't do that much dirt in the winter as we do in the summer.
Right.
We can't wait for summer to come so we can go out and fist fight and get drunk and act a fool all out in public all times of day and night. That's the nature of most of the animals is they get more active in the heat.
Yeah.
It makes you more active and the cold slows you down. So with the UV rays that's coming in from all of these repeat solar flares, and then the earth is responding with the Schumann resonance, responding to the solar flares, heating it up from the inside, from the core. So now you're getting inner heat and external heat. And in the water temperatures, it might seem like 1 degrees is not that much, but if you live as a fish in the water, 1 degrees is a big difference. It's like 20 degrees to a human. Right, so they begin to respond different as the water heat up, and now you about to see all kind of strange animals coming because you're starting to see mythical creatures reemerge because we moving into the 5th dimension. Right.
You know, no, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Right, so this the age of Aquarius, where all things must be made known. That's mean all of the deceptions of the past had to be exposed to the public to break the hold on the minds of the masses.
Yo, so Ross, so I did a show with Blue and Red and Blue Pill. I think it was last week or something like that. And remember when we had the panel with you and Billy and Sharif and B-Dell? I had to record. I would have had it, but I don't know where I put it. I don't know where I put it, y'all. But remember I had to record and I was doing it. Yeah. I was speaking to it in reverse, playing in reverse. So I did it with Blue and Red, and I said Yahweh. And it sounded like when I played it in, when I said Yahweh, I said Yahweh. And when I played in reverse, it almost sounded like it said Hawaii. It was like Hawaii. So I'm like, yeah, in my mind, I said, I gotta ask Rod, because Rod, you deal a lot with the whole Yahweh and Lil. Is there any connection with Hawaii that we should know about, and in Lil or Inky or the Anunnaki or anything like that? That it will be the reason why Yahweh backwards sounds like Hawaii.
I'm not sure of a direct connection outside anything that would be normal, but we do know that when they came on the incursion over here, they also attacked Hawaii. Hawaii has never been ratified as a state. Most of us don't know that. They took that. That's in they took book. They straight up took that. And so the royal families from that island, they had already sent their soldiers to the mainland to fight in the Gullah Wars. So now they was left pretty much defenseless.
Damn.
Right. So when they went around, when they attacked California and bombed Califia Queen Castle, that became a military base, that became a prison that we call Alcatraz. That's the same time they made their incursions into Hawaii. Now they then turned their beastie hordes loose on the islands that was sending support to the mainland in order to shut down, because they was being overrun by a varying different phenotypes. You had dark-skinned, straight-haired people that was dang near chocolate bar colored dark with straight hair. And you had people coming with curly locks. You had people coming with dreadlocks. They're like, where is all these coming from?
Right.
So when they went around, I think it was DeSoto, went around South America, but I could look it up and I could tell you exactly who it was. But he went around South America looking for a way to attack from the rear. But they don't tell it in history as that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In history, they say that they was looking for an alternate trade route. But it was a war effort the whole time. Everything they doing is an act of war. None of this stuff is socially normal to a non-warring people. We in a police state. They changed our cities from concentric circles. Half of them, like half of New Orleans is in St. Bernard's Parish, is in the Gulf of Mexico from bombings. Right? Half of Chicago was in Lake Michigan from bombings. Chicago used to be a big concentric circle city when it was ancient, but under the modern, you can't hardly tell unless you know that half of it is under Lake Michigan. Or not half of, but a sizable portion of it. Chicago is a huge city. It's big land-wise. Right? So, all of these things is just mirrors of the past that we have to look to find out what was going on. So Hawaii was a technologically advanced place. I mean, it was not like a lot of It was not like a lot of the other places. It's probably gonna mess me up. Somebody just tried to call in.
I hear you, Rod. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
You good? You hear me?
Yeah, that was my daughter calling. Yeah,
Okay.
I got you. You clear now. Okay, so Hawaii was annexed. That doesn't mean they took it. They never ratified Hawaii. They never signed treaties to claim Hawaii. They just took it.
Damn.
And they used it was a sugar farmer that became a pineapple farmer that was the smiley face that they used as the front man to make their incursion into Hawaii.
Ah. Damn. Wow. Yeah, a lot of history being told tonight, y'all. A lot of history. Y'all make sure you support that brother Rod. A lot of history being told tonight in an hour and 30 minutes. Let me see, because we're about to wrap it up. Let me see what y'all talking about in the chat. All right, let's ask this, because let me get to somebody. All right, hold up. Well, somebody made a good point. You made a comment about the Africans earlier. Somebody said, didn't Kwame and Nkrumah come to the U.S. and was mistreated like a so-called Negro? I think you said something earlier about the Africans and the Muhammad Ali and Dan Calloway posts, and they like, nigga, what Kwame and Nkrumah was treated like a Negro.
Look who his friends was over here. Malcolm X,
Woo.
Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go look what he was doing over there before he came over here. And they don't want anybody. Maurice Bishop is from Barbados. He came over here. We loved him. But the CIA said he gonna wake these Negroes up and sent the hit squad at him.
Damn.
Right? Patrice Lumumba was reaching out to us over here because this is part of the confraternity, because this is how we found out. All this is happening as a result of we have to find out if these are people.
Okay.
So Malcolm went over there, found out he from over here. You know, he ain't the only one. Stokely Carmichael changed his name to Kwame Ture and moved to Ghana. Right? So they don't want progressive thinking people that would interfere with their oppression on either side of the water. Right? Kwame Nkrumah is a special individual in the struggle for planetary liberation. Right? He's not the only one. They always tell us about Mandela, but they don't know about Stephen Biko. They don't want to talk about Biko. Right? We don't want to talk about, they don't want to teach us about Patrice Lumumba and to transcribe his French lectures into English and we read them to our children. Right? They blew Walter Rodney up in the car. These all Africans I'm talking about. Jomo Kenyatta sold out the Mau Mau to the English. And the reason that he did it is because they promised to give him military support to put him in power. That the general of the Mau Mau was standing right next to him. You see him with the dreadlocks. I can't remember his name because he got one of them funny African names that I can make it hard for me to remember him. But all of those types of individuals, if Gandhi would have came over here, they'd have treated him like a so-called Negro. He didn't come over here. But he was in Africa getting treated like a Negro. That's what made him go back to India. He said, if I'm going to be treated like a Negro, I might as well go home and fight. Right? Anybody that could influence us is not treated the same as people who refuse to give us information. The ones that they suck up to is the ones with the superiority complex. Them the ones that they give them up. They treat them just like royalty when they come over here. They be all up in the White House. We don't see them though. They don't show them to us on the news. They be up there. They be in the White House, be in the Senate and the Congress. They be talking to senators and congressmen on the Senate floor, and they never show us that stuff. People from Africa that don't got nothing to do with us, don't care about us. They only worried about their interest in Africa and how to hold on to power where they at. It's a difference. A freedom fighter is a freedom fighter wherever you drop him at. If you drop a freedom fighter that you caught in America, in India, he gonna fight for freedom in India. If you drop him in Australia, he gonna fight for freedom in Australia. It don't matter. And anywhere a freedom fighter go, he not gonna be welcomed by the status quo. And Nkrumah was a true freedom fighter. He was a liberator, a chain breaker. They don't want them kind over here. Of course they gonna treat him bad. But they're not going to treat all of the rest of them that they doing business with. They're going to treat them like royalty. They're going to set them up in 5-star hotels with no bill. And they can drink all of the fancy $5,000 bottles of champagne they want to, eat all of the caviar they want to, and they looking down at us like we the trash. You on mute.
My fault. I had it on mute. I said, "Wow, let's keep this thing moving, Rod. This is we could be on here for 4 more hours, y'all. If we would. Easy, y'all. But I'm watching my son, so I ain't gonna be on here too much long. Let's get to a couple of more questions. Warrior, shout to Warrior. Warrior said, "Rich, does your hat stand for Yahweh?" Yes, it does. Yes. I am the new Yahweh. I'm the new Yahweh, y'all. That's
Yahweh. Yahweh is a title, not a name.
Yeah.
And it just means the master of the perfect balance between the masculine and the feminine.
Indeed.
But it was a title that was ascribed to an earth ruler. You had to be right. But before Enlil was called Yahweh, Enki was called Yahweh. Right? Before Enlil was called Enlil, Enki was called Enlil.
Wait, but say that again. Hold up. This confuses shit. Say that again.
But before Enlil was called Enlil, that's not his name. That's a title.
Damn.
The only title that Enlil never held was Enki because he never conquered Earth. Enki didn't conquer Earth. This is the crazy part. Enki never had to conquer Earth. He lived in harmony with the people of the planet and the animal and the environment around it. He didn't upset the balance of nature. Enlil came in bombs ablazing. They call it raining fire and brimstone in your religious texts. Because he controlled the sky fleet. That's how he got the name Enlil. When they first arrived, Enlil was the title that Enki was holding in the transport from Nibiru to Earth. When he landed on Earth and he began to rise in prominence among the people of the Earth, they gave him the title of Enki, but it's not just a title. Enki means the earth key. It gave him the key to the earth, like giving you the key to the city, which changed his name from Enlil. So when his brother came and found he was no longer being called, because En in Sumerian means Lord.
Right.
Ki is Kai, means earth. So Enki became the earth ruler or the earth lord, the perfect father figure for the men of earth to aspire to be like. Enlil came in with his trans-testicle half species crossbreeding kids through dimensions, mirror-verse babies with a reverse genetics, and his rogue wife that walk around with a phallus big as his, and he think that that's normal. That's not normal on Earth. It's normal where they from. It ain't normal here. Right. So those are titles, and those titles became synonymous with names by being lost in history.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Rod. Let's do one more question, Then I'm gonna have to get out of here, family. Let's do one more question. There's a lot of good questions. We might have to do a part 2 or something. Somebody, yeah, the telepathy training is gonna be on Patreon, and I'll that's gonna be next Tuesday, and I'll keep you updated on that. But that will be on Patreon. Let me see. Give me serious. Go over there. Go over there. This last question from Super Chat. If Adam and Eve represent the creation of white people, are the people outside of the garden in Nod the earlier creations, like Dr. Moreau had a lab, but the first creations was on the island outside the lab who made Nods?
The land of Nod was a civilization that existed in the southern part of what's today called the Middle East, around the Iran area, not Iraq. And it was a city of Enki. Enki is in what's this guy name? Enki is classified as a hedonist, a pleasure seeker, right? And he liked to laugh loud, talk, and shuck and jive with the crowd, talk stuff to the people. He liked to mingle. Tahuti liked to be reclusive. Enlil also likes the spotlight. And if somebody like his brother is getting more, what he feel like is getting more spotlight in him, he's prone to go into jealous rages. Right? The story creation of Adam and Eve was not a skin-based production of people. It was creating in Sumerian tablets, they called him Lulu Aminu. They didn't call him Adam and they didn't call him Eve. Adam is Adama in Hebrew, which means clay, ruddy red dirt. Eve is Hawa in Hebrew, which means the tribal leader. Right? So they telling us the story different in English than they get in Hebrew. This is why they use that to confuse us. Because now we don't know Abraham, right, means the heart of the black god. And who was the black god? The Lord of the perfect black, Osiris. He had the heart of the great father, which makes him be the father of many nations. Which takes us back to Enki and all of his children, right? And he wanted to be, or he was scheduled to be replaced by Enlil, his brother, who decides to pull rank, right? And Tahuti just want his people left alone. And they weren't never supposed to come to the Americas, because if they come to the Americas, now that gives me an excuse to get involved. All I needed was an excuse. And they came over here and they gave me the excuse. Now I got to get involved. I got to tell all of the people this stuff don't work on me. This is why it don't work, because I know exactly what they're doing. Right? So all of us over here was never supposed to be involved in the Anunnaki Wars. But all of Enki children lost to Enlil's children in Africa, in India. That's where, if you go back to Alexander, when they say he conquered the world because he took the scroll of destiny from India. He didn't go into Ethiopia and face the Candace Queens. He didn't want no parts of that smoke. Men under the matriarchy is not these pussy blandamists, watered down, soft shoe, butter butt, brown nose people that we see today that's masquerading as men. That's under the matriarchy. The man is masculine, hardcore, and will bust your face with his fist about these women and these babies. But these new men will overlook the children being hurt and the women being abused. Like, ain't got nothing to do with me. You couldn't whoop a woman in the streets. If you had a wife and you wanted to whoop her, you better wait till you get home. Because if you get caught whooping her in the streets, a pack of young boys going to come whoop you like a pack of ravenous hyenas. And they don't do that no more because they feminizing the males to win the war. They not going to win the war because all of us ain't finna bitch up. Some of us going to speak up. I want to tear something up, but they keep telling me we brain banging, we ain't gang banging, and I don't like it. I want to go out and hit the streets of LA, Chicago, and New York and talk to these brothers in the hood and say, this is what they did to us. This is what we gonna do about it. But now they want me to sit here on social media, explain it, tell the story, and break down the history and be the great tutor that I'm supposed to be. Because all of the information is we already been given by our elders. We just didn't know how to put the puzzle together.
Right.
So I'm putting it together.
Rod, last question for you tonight. What an amazing show. How many incarnations have you had in this realm, Rod? Since you're able to tap into all this stuff. How many times you been in this realm, Rod?
Well, I used to come back on a regular basis, like leave this life, come back as a baby next week or next year or something like that. But they put a conjure spell on me. This is the story of Sun Wukong being sealed in the mountain for 500 years. But it wasn't 500, it was 5,000 years. So I couldn't, until they came over here, that's how they got me from unsealed from their conjure. And they used all of the Anunnaki, Enki, Enlil, Inanna, Anu, all of them had to do it together because they wanted me to stay out of the business, out of the smoke. They didn't want me because I would blow, they know I'll blow it up. I'll push the button, give me the football. Kill them all and let God sort them out. Send them to source and the righteous ones can come back and the wicked ones can stay. But they don't want me to do it that way. They wanted me to show that our brain power, our spiritual self has the capacity to overcome the obstacle without the shedding of blood. I want to shed blood, but they don't want me to shed blood. I want to shed some blood though. I want some heads to roll. I'm not nonviolent. I'm very violent, but I'm not supposed to do violent stuff to teach the people how to see out of the maze they put us in. Because all it is a mental maze. They trapped us in our own minds with that Amen spell. That's the worst spell out of all of them. Because it's self-inflicted. It's a self-inflicted conjure. That's the hardest one to get a person to break. The one the sorcery you do to yourself is going to be way harder than breaking the sorcery that somebody else done to you. So they tricked us by saying amen after we so-called pray. That turned us into prey. We don't want that fire to rise up and in and rebel and kick back at the stuff that's oppressing us. They don't want that. I want all of that. But it's not necessary. We won. I just got to get everybody to realize we won. The Earthborn won Earth. When we freed Earth, we freed everything Enlil had in his restricted will universes. He don't believe in free will universes. That's why the Earthborn was resistant to him the whole time. Enki don't care. All he want to do is laugh hearty, sing and drink and dance. He don't want all that other stuff. He don't want to control nobody. He don't want, and he did things that the Anunnaki looked at as an abomination when he gave us the ability to think for self. Matter of fact, I just put that reel up from a movie, an Anunnaki movie. I don't know. I had to find that movie because it's literally telling, it's a conversation taking place between Enki and Enlil. So if you go to my Rod Hayes Facebook or the Sick Ape on Instagram and you look at my story, it'll pop up. And you hear Enlil chastising Enki about giving us the ability to be self-sufficient, think for ourselves, be our own individual selves, right? They call that purifying the ego. We were never supposed to learn how to purify the ego. The purification of the ego is how you activate your God form in the 3D realm. And all of the purification of the ego, we know it today, we call it the shadow work. And nobody didn't want us to know these things. These was all what you call temple secrets that the rank and file of humanity is not supposed to have access to. And everything that they did to subjugate the matriarchy, they know I'm going to tell these women how powerful they is. I'm going to tell them you ain't got to fight them. And I'm going to tell them where all the secrets is, where the rituals at, where they hid it in plain sight. I'm going to point it out. The Sufis and the dervish, got all of the rituals that the Atlantean women used to use to raise the vibrational frequency so that the lower vibrating archons can't even exist on the planet.
Damn.
They had to keep the practice of the earthright rituals so that when the close of the age come, if we can figure it out, if we don't surrender and or abandon what's rightfully ours, it's the only two ways you could lose it at the close of the age, right? Because everything is reset back to the beginning. So the only way you can lose it, you got to either surrender it or forfeit. Well, Tahuti's philosophy is no retreat, no surrender, full speed ahead, balls to the wall, give him hell or give him death.
Damn, my brother. Wow. What a show, family. Y'all see the on the screen, my brother Rod Hayes Cash App. Make sure you have 2 hours. 2 hours of straight fight. This 2 nights in a row, I did 2 hours, y'all. First, did you see Keys yesterday, Rod Hayes? Keys was on yesterday.
I didn't even know you was on yesterday. I ain't been on. I haven't really been on here. Yesterday I was over there. Yesterday I was waiting to do a podcast, but the girl never sent me the link. And then Friday I was on with Dr. Kia Pruitt.
Excellent, my brother. Well, yeah, man. 2 nights. I mean, powerful shows back to back, y'all. Make sure y'all support my brother Rod. We will see y'all Tuesday on Patreon. I'll post up. A lot of y'all know how to get to there. Black Magic 363. But if y'all don't, I'm gonna post a link up in the on a YouTube. But we will see y'all Tuesday. Telepathy training. It's time now more than ever to tap into these spiritual abilities. It's 2024. Y'all see the shit show happening. We got to know what's going on, y'all, in the spirit realm and in the inner knowing realm. So I will see y'all on Tuesday on the Patreon. With that being said, any info you want to give them before we get out of here, Rod?
No, just keep watching this show. Pop your popcorn, get your soda, sit back. When the martial law come, that ain't got nothing to do with us. They coming to get the baby eaters. Right? That's what they coming for. They coming to get the baby eaters. They coming to get the serial rapist organizations. They coming to get all of the people we want gone. That's who they coming to get. So you sit back, toke on your blunt like I'm gonna do. Get your popcorn and your soda and watch this show because Trump just gave them the green light to go. I don't know what it means, but he just told them go, go, go. Whatever that means, they finna go. I'm finna watch.
Wow.
Earlier in the week, he put up on his Truth Social, he told Biden, you got a week. It was a skit. That's how he played it. The skit had George Clooney firing Joe Biden, telling him he had 1 week left on the job.
Wow.
So I'm watching. This getting juicy. Then the same day, all this is posted on my page on my Instagram and Facebook if you go back and look. But they said that they was talking, the senators in DC was talking about using the 25th Amendment to remove Joe Biden and put Kamala Harris in office because they saying he's showing signs of dementia. I got the article on my Facebook that go all the way back to 2020 when his son was complaining about them making fun of his father's Alzheimer and dementia, and he was never supposed to be put back in if he could pass the cognitive test. That mean the whole time he ain't been running nothing. Guess who been running the show? On the stage show side of things. It's Kamala, but the real stuff is being handled by 45. This is some juicy stuff, man. I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, man, this is more juicy than ghetto gossip on the street corner in the barbershop.
Damn.
I'm just watching it. It's funny to me now. It was miserable at first. Now it got so funny that I can't even be miserable looking at it. I used to just hate that people can't see the stage show playing out. And I'm looking at the director and the actors and they also posted where Trump was talking about central casting. People keep forgetting he kept saying central casting. Who is central casting? All of those people that don't have Oval Office as actors. And that's why they couldn't release the Supreme Court ruling about the oath of office because it'll bring the whole facade down. Yeah. That's how they put. That's how so once they put Kamala in, that means matriarchy restored, and then after that they put 45 back in order to make all of the announcements and bring in the tribunal TV and show them who was doing what. And then his job to tell y'all, all these chiefs that's sitting around watching this stuff on the Titantron in Raven Rock, Colorado, gonna come out and then they got to give a report to the people because they don't have to answer to me or you, Rich. They got to answer to the collective, and the collective is waiting with they doing like your auntie do when she waiting on you to tell that story again. Okay, now how you say that went, baby? Now let me see what you say. Now tell me again. The people waiting like that because they know that the chief's responsibility is to report the distress that's been going on the land and the final overcoming of the obstacles. That's not the responsibility of the corporation that's defunct now. They got to try to keep their charade up as long as possible until enough of us wake up and start laughing at the comedy show that they putting on. Now they're making the parody so obvious that if you can't see that it's a stage show and that they playing David Copperfield illusions in front of you, then you probably an NPC.
Appreciate you once again, my brother. With that being said,
I heard blast, Rich. Appreciate it, brother.
We'll be having a good time, man. I'm gonna see you on Tuesday, Rod. Who knows what might happen? I don't know what might go down between now and Tuesday, but we'll see what happens. It's a hell of a show. I will see you all of y'all Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Getting out of here. Have a good night, family. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace. Peace, Rod.
All right, peace, Rich.